Hey guys, what's up? This is a CyberPower gaming PC, or you know, what's left of a CyberPower gaming PC. Now, you've probably read the title. I don't know what the title is yet, because I have not checked this PC. Now, how much I paid for it is irrelevant. I'm gonna judge this PC based on what are you getting for the price that you pay. And this PC, if you were to buy it new, is like $1,500. And based on the specs, it's not a terrible deal, theoretically. But there are specs in this PC, like a lot of pre-built, that I do not know. That a lot of people do not know and will never know. And in this video, we're going to be exploring what those specs are and why they suck. First things first. This PC is spec'd out with a Core i7-9700. I don't know which one exactly. It's not in here because I bought basically the frame of this PC without the main components because I don't need the main components. I know what they are. It's like a 9700 and a 2060 or 2070, something like that. I don't need those. I have better things, and I don't really need them to sell. What I need is the motherboard, the drives, the power supply, the case, and the cooling. And that's what we have here. Basically, the frame of the PC, those are the parts you're basically never told. Unless it has liquid cooling, in which case they advertise it 1,000 times, despite the fact they put crappy liquid coolers on that break after like a year or two. But let's not get into that right now. What we're getting into is, what do these pre-built companies like CyberpowerPC, what don't they tell you? What is it you don't know, and why does that suck? First things first, the motherboard. Although we have an i7 9th gen, based on what the stickers say on this PC, this is a B360M Extreme. Now, this is a CyberpowerPC branded motherboard, which I think is cool. Not a lot of pre-built companies make their own, like these, like, you know, boutique systems like this, iBuyPower, Omen, all that stuff. They don't really make their own motherboards. This company does, although it is just an ASRock motherboard. It's their B360M. It's just rebranded with some orange on it, because it does say powered by ASRock. But it is like a CyberPower PC. They printed their own stuff. They colored it like that. So that's pretty cool. But for an i7 9th gen, B360 is basically the cheapest thing you can get. That'll still work with the CPU. So yeah, kind of a bad motherboard. Now, for the same price as you're paying for this system to be built, you can make the same system with a Z370 board or something better that'll actually allow you to use your board more effectively, use your computer, and have better power delivery and stuff. But let's take off this glass. You can see I still have the plastic on, but let's get this really kind of crappy glass mounting system off. Let's peel the glass while we're here. Not even a good peel. Alright, opening this up, one thing I noticed already. Who else notices it? You guys see what I'm talking about? Cables. Not only are they dusty as hell, that is disgusting. Ketchup and mustard cables. Ketchup and mustard everywhere. Disgusting rainbow cables. So that says a lot about their power supply in here. It means, first of all, it's probably an off-the-shelf power supply. Some companies, like I know iBuyPower does this, and whether it's good or bad is up to you. They use not an off-the-shelf power supply, but they use the OEM that makes some of those off-the-shelf power supplies, and they put in kind of their own power supply. It's not their brand, but at least they have black cables. For a system with this kind of specs, I would expect better cables. But whatever. Let's move on. What really is important is what power supply they're actually using. In terms of cooling, these fans are doing nothing. There's no front intake. There's one fan in the back, which I guess doing something. There's one fan just sitting on the thing here. Then again, this is just a frame, so who knows who had it last. I don't see an SSD in the front, but with this kind of specs, I would expect an SSD. So let's take this horribly mounted back off. Oh. Well, I expected this. And this is where the title of the video comes from. This is why pre-built companies, in this video I'm going to be specifically talking about this one, so the title probably mentions this one, are terrible. Let me just show you and see if you notice it. Couple things. First of all, you see we got drives. I wasn't even expecting to get drives, but we got drives. We'll talk about this in a minute. Look at that power supply. Now, you may think, oh, Thermaltake's a big name brand, that's fine. But here's the thing. This is the cheapest power supply that you can put in a computer that will work. This is the cheapest possible power supply. And for a system that they charge you extra money than what the parts are worth to put it together. Now, CyberPower, iBuyPower, they don't charge you too much extra. They're not like Alienware or whatever, so it's not terrible. I need a better screwdriver. But for what they're charging you, I would expect a better power supply. At the very least. Same company, whatever you want. Black cables. I don't expect to be paying $1,500 for a system that has ketchup and mustard cables. But even so, I would expect, if it has got ketchup and mustard cables and you're using an off-the-shelf power supply because you're too lazy to go to an OEM and get them to make you custom power supplies, or just send you some of their base power supplies, I would expect a better company. EVGA makes a great power supply. It's like $50, $60. Has rainbow cables, but I trust it more. It's 80 plus. Oh, all this wiring for the RGB I don't care about. Now, one thing I'll give them is this is kind of a custom case. This power button tells me that it's the same exact case as that iBuyPower one I bought a little while ago. The one where I just randomly bought a pre-built. If I can even get this thing out. The way they manage their cables is just by zip tying them all together. Which isn't managing, that's just annoying. Now, this is the most disgusting and dirtiest system I've ever seen. That part, I'm going to say, I'm trying to be as unbiased as I can. Here's the thing. My first ever real, like actual, you would expect to game on it gaming PC that I ever bought with my own money was an iBuyPower Prebuilt. Back when the 7700K and 1080 Ti were the new deal, those were my specs. It was an insane PC, and I couldn't have been more happy. So I'm not biased against these kinds of pre-built companies. Now, if you're talking about like HP, Omen, and Dell stuff, yes, I hate them. I think they're terrible, and I think they're ripping off their customers. Because they're big companies, they don't have to charge the amount of money they do. They move so many units, they move more units than these, and these charge less. So those kinds of companies, I'm going to be biased against them because they're charging way too much for PC parts that don't even look that cool. But this is like, you know, I'm fine with these companies. It's kind of like what I do. I put together PCs from parts that I buy, although I don't buy them in bulk, like these companies do, so they get pretty good deals. You know, I kind of do this, and I understand it, and I'm not biased against them normally, but I'm just pointing out what I see. I cut into that garbage mesh that's around these stupid cables, because this is a garbage power supply. But it's not garbage like, oh, this is trash, you know, but it works. It's garbage like this could brick your system garbage, you know. Now, I'm not saying it's going to break in a year or 2 years, like for sure. But I'm saying if anything was, this would. This is trash. And this is why they don't tell you what power supply's in your system. On spec, you might get, 600 watt power supply, and you'd think, 600 watts. That's good. That's good. That's a lot of watts. But they don't tell you 600 watt Thermaltake smart power supply. I think it has to go out the back. Now, here's the thing. Every pre-built company has a thing they do to save money. But it comes down to, you know, they all end up really saving about the same amount of money and charging the same price. In terms of, I'm talking about these boutique systems. And realistically, I'm talking about this, Main Gear, and iBuyPower, from what I know. That's the only companies I know that I've had experience with, and that's who I know. They all do things to save money, whether it's using hard drives that have some usage on them, which they actually, some of them do. This probably has some hours on it. Run it through Crystal Disk, though. I wouldn't know. This thing's dusty as hell, so it's clearly been used. Or a lot of times it's the power supply. But here's where this video title comes in, where I'm specifically talking about this company. This is the only one I've seen so far. And here's the thing. I'm not saying there aren't more. There's probably other companies that do this. There's definitely other companies that do this. But there's better ways to save money than by putting in an off-the-shelf garbage PSU. This thing, it's trash. I don't even know if I could reuse this with how much dust is in it. Now, the dust is as much fault of the company for not protecting against dust as it is the person using it for not putting it in a not dusty area. So I'll give CyberPower a pass for this. Some of these zip ties are so unnecessary. Okay, here's another thing. Cable management. I understand managing your cables, zip tying them to the case. But this is annoying. This zip tie right here is so tight around the cable because all they did was zip tie the fan cable, which is on the fan side, so I can't even remove it, to the EPS 12-volt connector, which is super annoying because to cut it off, I'm either going to end up accidentally cutting the mesh or cutting the fan cable, neither of which I want to do, but it's going to happen. And that was pointless. That's a pointless thing to zip tie. It's a tiny cable. You can force it in at the end, and it won't look terrible. But it just makes the system harder to take apart. And that's the thing I say about pre-builts. You know, excluding, again, the big companies. These boutique systems, since they're off-the-shelf parts for the most part, they should be easier to take apart. You should be able to, when you're done, either sell the PC as a unit and have it still be worth something, or, you know, have parts, or you should be able to take it apart and sell the parts and have them be worth something. Okay, I mean, it's garbage. This is a trash power supply. It's full of dust. I could probably dust it and still usable. You know, I can hear someone in the comments, oh, why don't you use that power supply in the giveaway PC? It's trash. I would not even. It's, you know, I mean, maybe I'll ask the winner if they want something like that. It's just trash. It's trash. It's garbage. It's maybe worth something if I put it in a really bad system and sell it to somebody. But it's not a good power supply. I don't trust that Thermaltake power supply. Now, the case. That's one thing you're getting with one of these custom builders. You get a custom case. Now, in terms of Cyberpower, they have some pretty cool cases. This is pretty basic. This is like the basic configuration. There's dust everywhere. There's no front intake. What a terrible design. Side exhaust. Side exhaust doesn't do anything. You want side intake, but that looks ugly, so they put it as exhaust to make it look better. Let's look at these drives. I want to see what we got going on with drives. Alright, what's this SSD? Green, so that's 256 gigs, right? I believe green data drives are 240 or 256 gigabyte. If I know my data drives, which I do very well because every single pre-built uses these stupid drives. Why am I calling them stupid? Because they're basically the cheapest you can. They're kind of comparable to the Chinese SSDs people buy, then find out they're like, oh, it's actually surprisingly decent. It's an SSD. Of course it's surprisingly decent. They do what they're supposed to do as long as they have a DRAM cache. And this is basically the cheapest, you know, you can slap in a build and have it be an SSD. This is 240 gigabytes. I'm a genius. Alright, let's see what this hard drive is. I want it to be 2 terabytes. I'm actually expecting it to be 2 terabytes. If it's not 2 terabytes, we're going to have a problem. This is a 2 terabyte drive. Good. Honestly, no complaints. It's a Seagate Barracuda. Honestly, fine. You know, my Cyberpower build used a 3 terabyte Toshiba drive. Same thing. It's a well-known company. Fine. A data, cheapest SSD you can get besides Inland, which I buy at Micro Center for like 20 bucks. Fine. Whatever. I'll give them a pass. Where there's no pass for a company like this is by using that power supply that it used. This garbage over here. I'm not going to pick it up. It's terrible. It's bad. I don't care if it's not going to brick your system. I don't want it in my system. See, here's the thing. These companies, you're like, oh, the specs, they look good. And for the price, they're actually pretty good. Because if I would have built that, it would cost me about the same. That's the point. If I were to build that, it would cost me about the same. And that's the part I have a problem with. Because if you were to build this, you would put in a better power supply. Now, in terms of the actual spec/performance, it doesn't really change anything. But in terms of longevity, noise, dust even, I don't care. Not blowing up your entire system, maybe setting fire to your home, which is entirely possible if you get a, short of a magical kind, I wouldn't run it in my system. I'm paying money for somebody to put together expensive Legos. I expect them to use the fucking highest quality Legos they can find. One thing I'll give this, fine. They did their own branding on the motherboard. They did their own branding on the case. Cool. Not really that hard to do. What annoys me is that they're going through the effort to put their branding on a motherboard, print out this, print on the PCB, change the heatsink colors, change the RAM slots. They're going through the effort to make this custom case, RGB logo, custom, all this stuff. And then, instead of going with some kind of OEM power supply that's like from a trustworthy brand, like the ones that make Corsair, I believe Great Wall makes some of Corsairs and stuff like that, they do this. They off the shelf. Why? Why not slap your name, at the very least slap your name on one of these? This video is probably, some people are like, this makes no sense. You're just ripping on the company for no reason. Look, I'm going to be honest with you. If any YouTuber, no matter how big or small, recommends that you use an 80 plus white ketchup and mustard cables Thermaltake Smart Power PSU, I'm not telling you to unsubscribe, but I'm saying you should stop listening to that video. You should stop watching that video and pick a different one. Because I don't trust the integrity of a channel that tells you to buy a power supply that has a high chance of blowing up the system you just spent a lot of money on. And if they're using that power supply, it's likely a budget system, meaning you don't have the money to replace it were it to blow up. And Thermaltake's power supply warranty does not cover parts broken by the power supply. 12 volts goes where it's not supposed to. Something like that. You just fried every piece in your system. But don't worry, you can get warranty service on a broken power supply. So congrats. Now you have a fried system and an extra power supply. I'm going to test this motherboard off camera, see if it works. I'm going to make sure these drives aren't unusable entirely. Hopefully I didn't shake the hard drive to death. These fans, they're the cheapest you can possibly buy and call it a day. These are the same... I'm guessing this is the same OEM that Cooler Master uses. They have the same kind of design going here. Pretty freaking basic. This is, airflow-wise, it's a bad case. Now, I don't know what CPU exactly this was supposed to have in it. I can't find this exact model of PC. It doesn't really have model numbers or anything. It's just kind of expected that you know. I didn't actually buy the PC new or anything, but Thermaltake Smart Power. Do better, CyberpowerPC. You're not listening to this. Anyone listening to this thinks I'm just complaining about nothing. Oh, I don't have a PC. I'd take anything. If you take anything, don't buy this. See, the good thing about being a small channel is that CyberPower is not going to watch this, so I can basically say the truth. You know, other YouTubers be like, oh, you can't say don't buy. I'm telling you, you should not buy this if they're going to use that kind of power supply. It's not just because, oh, they're using this power supply. It's because that there are companies that charge the same or less money for the same exact specs and use a better power supply. And use off-the-shelf serviceable parts. Give you more storage. There's better options than this crap. Pick a better company.